Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. This time we're going to be looking at A Path with Heart by Jack Kornfield.
Oh, yeah.
Have you had a chance to read this one yet?
I haven't read it recently, but I have read it before. It's a great book.
It's a classic. It's from like 1993, I think.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing how relevant it still is today.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's packed with so many great insights and practices about navigating a spiritual life. We thought it'd be fun to dive in and see what gems we can unearth.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So one of the things that really struck me as I was rereading this was how Kornfield emphasizes bringing mindfulness into like everyday life.
Yeah.
Not just like, when you're on your meditation cushion or at a retreat,
Right.
but like in the midst of, daily chaos.
Mm-hmm.
For example, he talks about practicing loving kindness meditation in a traffic jam,
Oh, wow.
which, I don't know about you, but that sounds a little counterintuitive to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
when you're stuck in traffic, what's a better place to practice patience and loving kindness?
You're right. It's like turning that frustration into an opportunity.
Exactly.
And he also talks about this meditation called Stopping the War Within,
Mm-hmm.
which is all about, becoming aware of the battles we wage against ourselves, like all that self-criticism
Yeah.
and the doubt and all that stuff that can really hold us back.
I think we all have that war going on.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
To some degree or another. And, he guides us to start by just noticing our body sensations.
Okay.
Like the tightness in our chest or the tension in our shoulders. And then we gently bring awareness to our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So it's not about like suppressing those thoughts or feelings.
No.
It's just about observing them.
Observing them.
Yeah.
Like noticing them.
Yeah.
You're having this thought,
Yeah.
but you don't have to believe it.
Right.
And that's a really important distinction.
I love that. There's this quote from the book that I thought was really powerful. He says, "The ground of suffering is clinging to our self-image."
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like we're so attached to these stories we tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of our suffering comes from.
Totally. And that's where the practice of letting go comes in.
Right. And he talks about this meditation called Taking the One Seat,
Oh, yeah.
where he describes this very specific posture, like stable, erect, connected to the earth. He even calls it like the posture of awakening.
It sounds very, important.
I know, right? And I was thinking, like, how does that apply to, just everyday life?
Well, it doesn't have to be so literal, It's not like you have to be sitting in full lotus posture to access that state of awareness.
So it's more about like an internal state.
Exactly. It's about finding that inner stability.
Got it.
That grounded presence, no matter what's happening around you.
So like even if I'm, in a stressful meeting,
Yeah.
I can still tap into that.
Absolutely. Just by bringing your attention to your posture, to your breath, you can shift your internal state.
Interesting. And then there's this practice of developing a healing intention, which I have to admit, I kind of struggled with this one a little bit.
Yeah.
It's about bringing kind attention to our pain, both physical and emotional.
It's not easy.
No.
Because our natural tendency is to want to push pain away.
Right.
But Kornfield is saying, can we actually meet our pain with a sense of curiosity and kindness?
That's the challenge.
It is. But it's so powerful. Because when we can do that, we start to heal those wounds that we've been carrying around for maybe years.
And he uses this really beautiful image of visiting an inner healing temple.
Oh, yeah.
Where we can meet the part of ourselves that's hurting.
I love that image.
Me too. It's so evocative. It's like creating a space within ourselves for compassion and healing.
Yeah, it's like offering a refuge to that part of ourselves that's been wounded.
Okay, so let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
Because Kornfield gives some really helpful advice on establishing a daily meditation practice, which I know for a lot of people that can feel really daunting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, where do I even begin?
Right.
But he breaks it down into these simple steps, like finding a quiet space, choosing a time that works for you, and starting with just a few minutes of focusing on your breath.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah. Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
And he really stresses the importance of being patient with yourself.
Absolutely. The mind is going to wander. That's just what minds do.
Yeah.
It's not about achieving some perfect state of stillness.
Right.
It's about gently guiding your attention back to the present moment over and over again.
And he even offers these tips for dealing with like common obstacles, like restlessness or sleepiness during meditation. It's like he's anticipated all the excuses we might come up with.
Yeah, he's been there.
Totally. He's like,
Right.
I know you're going to try to get out of this, but here's how to work with it.
Exactly. And that's what makes his guidance so valuable. He's not just offering these lofty ideals. He's giving us practical tools that we can actually use in our everyday lives.
Okay. So speaking of everyday life,
Yeah.
he also talks about walking meditation
Yeah.
as a way to bring mindfulness into our daily routines. Now, I have to admit, when I first heard about walking meditation, I was a little skeptical.
I can imagine.
I was like, how can you meditate while you're walking? Like, isn't that kind of a contradiction in terms?
Right.
But then I tried it, and I was really surprised by how effective it can be.
Yeah. It's a great practice.
Yeah.
It's all about bringing that same quality of presence that we cultivate in sitting meditation
Okay.
into the act of walking. So you're paying attention to the sensations of each step, feeling the contact of your feet with the ground.
So it's about like really being present in your body
Exactly.
as you're moving.
Yeah. And it's something you can do anywhere,
Yeah.
you know, on your way to work, during your lunch break, even just walking from one room to another.
So it's like turning your everyday movements into a mindfulness practice.
Exactly.
I love that. Now, Kornfield doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either. He has this whole section on reflecting on difficulty,
Yeah.
which encourages us to really examine our relationship with challenges. And it's not about, seeking out suffering or anything like that.
Right.
But it's about seeing difficulties as opportunities for growth.
Absolutely.
He poses these really thought-provoking questions in this section.
Like what?
Like, how have I treated this difficulty so far?
Okay.
What suffering is unavoidable?
Yeah.
Is this mine to accept?
Wow. Yeah.
And it's about, facing our challenges with honesty and compassion rather than trying to avoid them or suppress them.
And that can be so challenging.
Oh, totally.
Because we're so conditioned to want to avoid pain.
Right.
But sometimes the only way through is through.
He even suggests that by leaning into our difficulties, we can actually uncover these hidden strengths.
That's true.
And discover these new depths of resilience within ourselves.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of thing.
Exactly. But with a little more nuance.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
There's this one more meditation that I want to touch on before we move on.
Okay.
It's called Working with Impulses. And it's all about becoming aware of those urges and desires that often drive our actions.
Yeah, I think we all have those.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Like you think about all the times you've acted on impulse.
Like what?
Whether it's reaching for that extra cookie.
Oh, yeah.
Or firing off an angry email. Or, whatever it is. Kornfield's practice helps us to create space between the impulse and the action.
So instead of just reacting automatically, we pause and we observe what's happening within us.
Exactly. And in that pause, we can start to understand the nature of our impulses. Like we can see how they arise, how they feel in our bodies, and how they influence our thoughts and behaviors.
Yeah. And then we can make a conscious choice about how to respond.
It's like we're training ourselves to become more mindful of our actions.
Absolutely.
To make choices from a place of awareness rather than from automatic reaction.
It's a practice in self-awareness and self-control.
Okay. So this brings us to a topic that might seem a bit out there for some listeners.
Okay.
Altered states of consciousness. Kornfield dedicates a whole chapter to reflecting on our attitudes towards these experiences.
Interesting.
And I have to say, this was one of the most thought-provoking sections for me.
Really? What stood out to you?
Well, what I found really insightful was that he encourages a healthy skepticism.
Okay.
He's not saying like, oh, all altered states are good or all altered states are bad.
Right.
He's saying like, we need to be discerning. We need to examine our motivations for seeking out these states. Like, are we seeking them for personal gain?
Yeah.
Or are we open to the teachings that they might offer?
Right, because sometimes we can get caught up in the experience itself.
Totally.
And lose sight of the bigger picture.
And he also cautions against getting attached to specific states or experiences.
Right.
He reminds us that the true path is about finding balance and integration in all aspects of our being.
Yeah. Like, it's not about chasing after these peak experiences. It's about bringing that same quality of awareness to every moment of our lives.
Okay. So I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
What stands out to you so far?
Yeah.
What are some of the key takeaways you're seeing?
Well, I think for me, what's really coming through is that emphasis on gentle awareness.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about forcing ourselves into some preconceived notion of spirituality.
Right.
It's about cultivating a kind attention to our own experience, thoughts, feelings, sensations, all of it.
It's like he's saying, hey, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You don't have to have all the answers. Just show up with an open heart and see what unfolds.
Exactly. And that can be so liberating, especially in a world that often tells us we need to be striving.
Yeah.
Achieving, constantly doing more. Kornfield reminds us that sometimes the most powerful practice is simply being.
Yeah. And he brings that into even the most profound and maybe intimidating aspects of spiritual life.
Like what?
Like his exploration of death and rebirth.
Oh, wow.
Drawing on the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
To be honest, that chapter had me feeling a little out of my depth.
I can imagine.
I'd love to hear your take on it.
Well, I think it's one of the most profound and misunderstood aspects of spiritual practice.
Okay.
You know, we tend to shy away from death in our culture.
Yeah.
But Kornfield encourages us to see it not as an ending, but as a transition.
Interesting.
You know, the Tibetan Book of the Dead talks about this luminous, clear light that we encounter at the moment of death. And Kornfield guides us to connect with that light as a source of peace and liberation.
So it's not just about confronting our fear of death.
No.
But about accessing this deeper dimension of awareness.
Exactly. And you don't have to wait until you're on your deathbed to experience it.
Yeah.
No, Kornfield suggests using visualization practices to connect with that clear light.
Okay.
To cultivate a sense of spaciousness and peace, even in the midst of life's challenges.
So it's like he's saying, hey, even death can be a teacher.
Yeah.
If we're willing to listen.
Exactly. It's all about perspective.
Right. It makes me think about how we often go to great lengths to avoid discomfort, but maybe leaning into those uncomfortable feelings, even the fear of death.
Yeah.
Can actually lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves.
It's a process of letting go of our attachments, our fears, our limiting beliefs. And in that letting go, we can open ourselves to something much greater than our individual ego.
Which brings us to what I think is one of the most beautiful and powerful themes in the book.
What's that?
Becoming simple and transparent.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Kornfield is saying, strip away all the unnecessary layers, all the pretense, and just be who you truly are.
It reminds me of that Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop would carry water.
Right.
After enlightenment, chop would carry water.
I love that.
It's about bringing a sense of presence and simplicity to every aspect of our lives.
Right.
Not just the moments we deem spiritual.
So it's not about seeking some grand transcendent experience.
No.
But about bringing that quality of awareness to the seemingly mundane tasks of life.
Exactly. Washing the dishes, folding laundry, even sitting in traffic. All of these moments can become opportunities for practice if we approach them with an open heart.
Kornfield has a line in the book that really stuck with me. He says, our task is to learn to live in the present moment, to find our joy and freedom right where we are.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It's so simple yet so profound.
Yeah. It's a reminder that we don't need to wait for some future event or achievement to be happy.
Right.
Happiness is available to us right now if we're willing to pay attention.
And that attention is cultivated through practice.
Exactly.
Through meditation, through mindfulness, through all the tools that Kornfield offers us.
It's a journey.
It is. He also talks about finding a path with heart.
Yeah.
Which I think speaks to that individual journey we all have to undertake. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to spirituality.
Right. It's about finding what resonates with you, what speaks to your soul.
And that journey might involve exploring different traditions.
Yeah.
Different teachers, different practices.
Absolutely.
It's about being curious, being open to new experiences, and being willing to trust your own inner wisdom.
And sometimes that means letting go.
Of what?
Of what no longer serves us. Old beliefs, limiting patterns, relationships that are holding us back.
It's about creating space for something new to emerge.
Yeah. It's a process of continual refinement, of shedding what's no longer necessary and embracing what's true for us in this moment.
And that process can feel messy and uncomfortable at times.
Oh, for sure.
But it's ultimately a journey of liberation.
Absolutely.
And it reminds me of how Kornfield emphasizes the importance of self-compassion.
Yes.
Especially when we stumble or fall short of our own expectations. It's easy to get caught up in self-criticism.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
But he reminds us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a loved one.
That's so important.
And that self-compassion extends to others as well.
Absolutely.
As we cultivate more kindness and understanding towards ourselves, it naturally spills over into our interactions with the world around us.
It's like that ripple effect.
Yeah.
Our inner transformation creates a ripple that extends outwards, impacting our relationships, our communities, and even the world at large.
And that's where I think Kornfield's work becomes truly revolutionary.
Oh.
It's not just about individual enlightenment.
Right.
It's about creating a more compassionate and just world for everyone.
Yeah, he talks about the importance of engaging with the world, of using our spiritual practice to make a positive difference.
It's about taking that inner peace and that loving awareness
Yeah.
and bringing it out into our communities, our workplaces, our families. It's about being the change we want to see in the world.
And that change starts with each of us. It starts with cultivating those qualities of awareness, compassion, and wisdom within ourselves.
And it starts with taking those small steps, those everyday actions that reflect our commitment to living a life with heart.
So it's not about waiting for some grand awakening or enlightenment experience. It's about showing up in this moment, in this very breath, with an open heart and a willingness to connect with the world around us.
That's where the real magic happens.
Absolutely. And that magic is accessible to everyone. You don't need to be a monk or a meditation master to tap into this wisdom.
Right.
You just need to be willing to take that first step to embark on that journey of self-discovery.
And Kornfield's book provides a beautiful roadmap for that journey.
Yeah, it's a book you can return to again and again, each time discovering new layers of meaning and insight.
It's like a wise friend offering guidance and support along the way.
And ultimately, the path is yours to create.
But you don't have to walk it alone.
No.
Kornfield emphasizes the importance of community, of finding like-minded people who can support us on our journey.
Absolutely. Whether it's a formal meditation group or simply a circle of friends who share our values, having that sense of connection can make all the difference.
It's a reminder that we're all in this together.
We are.
We're all in this journey of awakening, of becoming more compassionate, more loving, more fully alive.
And by supporting each other, we can make that journey a little bit easier, a little bit more joyful.
I love that.
Yeah.
It feels like a call to action.
It is.
To reach out, to connect, to build those bridges of understanding and support.
And to remember that we all have something to offer.
Yeah.
Each of us has unique gifts and talents that we can bring to the world.
And when we share those gifts with an open heart, we create a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
It's about recognizing our interconnectedness, our shared humanity.
Yeah.
It's about realizing that our actions, no matter how small, can have a profound impact on the world around us.
It's about choosing love over fear.
Yes.
Compassion over judgment and connection over isolation.
And it all starts with taking that first step, with making that commitment to live a life with heart.
And that, my friends, is the essence of A Path with Heart.
It is a beautiful book.
It's a call to awaken to our own potential, to embrace our interconnectedness, and to create a more compassionate and just world for all beings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is about that. You know, that gentle awareness, that kind of noticing what's happening within us.
Totally. And not judging ourselves for it.
Exactly, right? Like just kind of observing it with a sense of curiosity and kindness.
And, you know, speaking of profound experiences, Kornfield also delves into the topic of death and rebirth.
Oh, yeah.
Drawing on the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
That's a heavy one.
I know, right? And I have to admit, this chapter kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely not light reading.
No, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, you know, in our culture, we tend to kind of avoid talking about death.
Yeah, it's like the big elephant in the room.
Right, exactly. But Kornfield encourages us to view death not as an ending, but as a transition.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the Tibetan Book of the Dead talks about this idea of a luminous, clear light that we encounter at the moment of death. And Kornfield suggests that we can actually connect with that light now.
Now, while we're still alive.
Exactly. As a source of peace and liberation.
So it's not just about, like, confronting our fear of death.
No, it's more about accessing this deeper dimension of awareness.
Wow. That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. And it can be a really powerful practice, you know, to kind of contemplate our own mortality and to connect with that sense of spaciousness and peace that's always available to us.
It makes me think about how we often try so hard to avoid discomfort.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe leaning into those uncomfortable feelings, even the fear of death, could actually help us to grow and evolve.
Absolutely. It's a process of letting go.
Of what?
Of all those things that we cling to, you know, our attachments, our fears, our limiting beliefs. And in that letting go, we open ourselves up to something much greater.
I love that. So this kind of leads us to one of the most beautiful themes in the book, I think.
What's that?
Becoming simple and transparent.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It's like Kornfield is saying, strip away all the unnecessary layers, all the pretense,
right,
and just be who you truly are.
It reminds me of that Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop would carry water. After enlightenment, chop would carry water.
I love that saying.
It's about bringing that same sense of presence and simplicity to every aspect of our lives.
So it's not about seeking some grand transcendent experience,
Right.
but about bringing that quality of awareness to even the most mundane tasks.
Exactly. You know, like washing the dishes, folding laundry, even sitting in traffic.
Right. All those things that we kind of do on autopilot.
Exactly. But when we bring awareness to them, they can become opportunities for practice.
There's this line in the book that really resonated with me. Kornfield says, our task is to learn to live in the present moment, to find our joy and freedom right where we are.
It's so true.
I know. It's so simple, but it's so easy to forget.
It is. We get so caught up in our thoughts about the past and the future that we miss the beauty of what's happening right now.
And he also talks about finding a path with heart, which I think is such a beautiful way of putting it.
It is, because it really emphasizes the individual nature of the spiritual journey.
Yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. It's about finding what resonates with you, what speaks to your soul.
And that might involve exploring different traditions, different teachers, different practices.
Absolutely. It's about being curious, being open, and trusting your own inner wisdom.
And sometimes that means letting go of things that no longer serve us.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Like old beliefs or limiting patterns or even relationships that are holding us back.
It's about creating space for something new to emerge.
I like that. And that process can be challenging.
It can. But it's also incredibly liberating.
Yeah. And Kornfield really emphasizes the importance of self-compassion throughout that process.
Absolutely. Because it's so easy to beat ourselves up.
When we make mistakes or we fall short of our expectations.
Yeah. But he reminds us that we deserve the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a loved one.
And that compassion extends outward as well.
It does. As we cultivate more kindness towards ourselves, it naturally spills over into our interactions with others.
It's like that ripple effect.
Exactly. Our inner transformation has a ripple effect on the world around us.
And I think that's what makes Kornfield's work so powerful.
How so?
Because it's not just about personal growth.
No, it's about creating a more compassionate and just world.
He really emphasizes the importance of engaging with the world, of taking that inner peace and that loving awareness and bringing it out into our communities.
Our workplaces, our families.
Exactly. It's about being the change we want to see in the world.
And that change starts with each of us.
It does. It starts with cultivating those qualities of awareness, compassion, and wisdom within ourselves.
And it starts with taking those small steps.
Those everyday actions.
Yeah. The ones that reflect our commitment to living a life with heart.
So it's not about waiting for some grand awakening or enlightenment experience.
It's about showing up in this moment.
With an open heart.
And a willingness to connect with the world around us.
That's where the real magic happens. And I think that's a beautiful message to leave our listeners with.
It is. It's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference.
And that power comes from within. It's amazing, isn't it? Like, we have all this technology, all this information at our fingertips. But sometimes it feels like we're more disconnected than ever.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
It is. And, Kornfield really emphasizes the importance of human connection.
Yeah.
That sense of belonging.
Yeah.
It's not just about meditating in a cave somewhere.
Right.
It's about bringing those qualities of awareness and compassion into our relationships with others.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
We are.
We all have our struggles, our joys, our hopes, and our fears.
And when we can see ourselves reflected in others.
Yeah.
When we can connect with that shared humanity, it creates this sense of empathy and understanding.
Yeah. And that's where the healing begins.
I love that. So Kornfield talks about, finding teachers and communities that support our growth.
Yeah.
But he also emphasizes the importance of trusting our own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
So how do we balance those two things?
Well, it's a delicate dance, isn't it?
It is.
On the one hand, we want to be open to learning from others,
right,
to receiving guidance from teachers and traditions, but we also need to cultivate that inner compass.
That intuition.
Exactly, the one that tells us what feels true and authentic for us.
So it's not about blindly following someone else's path.
No.
It's about using our own discernment.
Yeah, and that discernment comes from experience.
Okay.
From trying different practices, exploring different teachings, and paying attention to how those things feel within us.
What resonates with us.
Exactly. What brings us a sense of peace, what sparks our curiosity, what helps us to connect more deeply with ourselves and with the world around us.
I like that. And it makes me think about how Kornfield talks about finding a practice that you can return to again and again. It's not about chasing after the latest trend or the most exotic sounding technique, but it's about finding something that really nourishes you on a deep level.
Something that sustains you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the practices that you find yourselves coming back to?
Well, for me, it's really simple. It's the practice of paying attention to my breath.
Okay.
It's something I can do anytime, anywhere. And it always brings me back to the present moment.
To that sense of groundedness.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, wherever you go, there you are.
That's a good one.
We can't escape ourselves.
We can try.
But it's much easier to just make friends with our own experience.
Absolutely. And that friendship starts with awareness, noticing our thoughts, our feelings, our bodily sensations without judgment.
Just observing.
Observing.
Yeah.
With a sense of curiosity.
And from that place of awareness, we can start to make choices that are aligned with our values and our aspirations.
It's about becoming more conscious.
More intentional.
Exactly.
So it seems like we've come full circle.
In a way.
Back to that idea of a path with heart, It's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment or following a rigid set of rules.
Right. It's about living a life that's infused with awareness, compassion, and purpose.
And it's about finding those things that bring us joy and meaning.
And sharing those gifts with the world.
And recognizing that we're all interconnected.
Absolutely.
That our actions have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
So as we cultivate more kindness and compassion within ourselves, we're also contributing to the healing of the world.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful message to leave our listeners with.
It is.
If you're feeling inspired to explore Kornfield's work further, A Path with Heart is available in all the usual formats: paperback, audiobook, ebook.
It's a great book.
It is. It's a book you can return to again and again. And each time you'll find something new.
You will.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep following your own path with heart.